Call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 26th Radnor Township School District regular business meeting. I know we have some good amount of business to get underway, so I'd like to start by reporting that the board met in executive session on the following dates: January 22nd, 2019, at the conclusion of our business meeting, January 29th, February 12th, February 19th, and February 26th, just prior to the start of this meeting, and we discussed matters of personnel and legal. And with that, I'd like to have a report from our students. Welcome.
So Rachel is not here tonight, so I'll talk on behalf of both of us. Since the last time we met back in December, Radnor students have taken part in a variety of activities. At the end of December, as you may know, students celebrated the holidays over a long break. Upon return, sophomores were welcomed back with a class breakfast organized by the sophomore class government and set up with the help of parent volunteers. Student government also brought in therapy dogs during midterm week to allow students to relax and de-stress a little bit while midterm preparations went under. Despite students working hard to prepare for their midterms, they were able to dedicate a few hours to Martin Luther King Day service projects. The hands-on service project ranged from making food and supply kits for the homeless and Valentine's Day cards for deployed service personnel. Furthermore, at the beginning of February, Radnor Model United Nations attended the Ivy League Model United Nations Conference hosted by the University of Pennsylvania. Although Radnor did not perform to its standards, it rebounded quickly at the Georgetown Model United Nations Conference 2 weeks later. Georgetown was the last conference for many seniors, so it was sad to see them go, but we ended on a good note, which was awesome. And a few weeks ago, junior student government partnered with the Thirst Club to have a homeroom fundraiser. The homeroom who brought in the most rewards or most money that they raised would receive insomnia cookies as their incentives. All proceeds were put towards building water wells for water in Swaziland, Africa, and it was a great way to see all our juniors come together and work, and some teachers even offered to match their donations that the homerooms brought in order to contribute. On February 9th, freshmen and upperclassmen came together for the annual freshman semi-formal, and the junior student government decided that the theme for junior prom would be Star Wars. On Thursday, the cast and crew of The Little Mermaid will be putting on their first show to display all their hard work and talent that they've been working on over these past 4 weeks, or months even. And I'm really excited to see it. Saturday is when I'll be attending. And as you know, this week the district will be participating in Read Across America. Some of our high school students will visit the elementary schools and read to some of the younger kids. Additionally, Model Congress just came back from Boston at Harvard, and here, senior Dylan Overturf won honorable mention in his committee. This weekend, the Radnor girls basketball team lost a very close game to Mount St. Joseph's, knocking them out of district playoffs. However, tonight they have an opportunity to redeem themselves in a play-back game against Westchester East, and we are hoping for a win to take them to states. As for the boys, the basketball team lost 60-46 against Unionville in the first round of districts. This was sad, especially for the seniors, as it was their last opportunity to make it this far. But it's okay, because spring sports are about to get back into session on Monday and drive us right into the new season. A lot has been going on at the high school, and it has been a very busy time over these last few months. And it's been challenging but rewarding. And thank you for having me tonight, and I can't wait to see you next month.
Thank you so much.
I'm a little worried that Rachel's not here, because the last meeting she was at, she actually called the snow day. So it was a Tuesday night meeting, and then Rachel gave us a hard time and forced us to call snow day for Wednesday. So if she's not here, I'm worried what she's plotting. Are we looking at more snow days coming up? Is Rachel, I'll have to email her. All right.
Okay, and with that, we're going to get right underway with our report from the superintendent. Mr. Batchelor.
Thank you. Good evening. It's good to see everyone. Just have a few announcements, and similar to the announcements already that we heard, it is musical season. So not only do we have the musical, as you can see, at our high school, but we have what's coming forward, what's coming up also at Radnor Elementary School and our Radnor Middle School theater production. So it's an exciting time of year for the arts in Radnor, and we're all looking forward to all the wonderful shows. And then our upcoming events, just as you can see a calendar, there's always a lot of things going on. We are excited about mentioning the Read Across America and the Dr. Seuss celebration that we have throughout all our schools. I know it's an opportunity for not only our board members, for our community members to get into our schools and to have an opportunity to read with our students. So we're looking forward to that as well as other events that are up and coming. And we want to thank our donors, one of our specific donors this month for funds for assisting students with musical instrument rentals. We really appreciate their generous donation. And again, it takes a community to do all that we do, and just really very appreciative of all the time and efforts and energy and dollars that our community is willing to give to support our schools. So I want to thank our donors. And in my superintendent's report tonight, I'd like to take a moment to give a commendation for meritorious service. And actually, I want to thank Mr. Fulgenet, our acting principal, with the terminology that he coined, and something that he had back from his days in the military and the Air Force. But for the events that took place recently at our middle school, and for the actions and the quick decisions and the involvement by 4 of our teachers at our middle school. So we have a commendation tonight of meritorious service for 4 Radnor Middle School staff members in taking life-saving action. So I want to first take a moment and just read what they did and read a little bit about this commendation. And then after that, I won't embarrass them too much, but then I'll invite them up. So I won't make you come up yet, but I'll invite you up after I read this, read this commendation. So using their training and taking decisive action, Radnor Middle School Assistant Principal Ryan Buterball, Nurse Carolyn Seaton, and physical education and health teachers Amanda Lewis and Eric Rufinak were instrumental in saving a person's life. On January 24th, Mr. Ronald Heath fell ill and collapsed to the ground at the school's entrance. A grandfather of a Radnor Middle School 6th grader, Mr. Heath was first attended by Mr. Buterball, who had witnessed the incident and immediately provided assistance. Mr. Buterball called for a nurse and notified his colleagues using the staff communication system. Upon realizing Mr. Heath was unresponsive, Mr. Buterball also called 911. Ms. Seaton arrived on the scene. Our school nurse assessed the situation and began administering CPR. Shortly thereafter, Ms. Lewis and Mr. Rufinak, both having attended a training in August in CPR and a training on Stop the Bleed and first aid by our Radnor Police Department in conjunction with the district, arrived quickly in response to Mr. Buterball's call. Mr. Rufinak retrieved a nearby automated external defibrillator, AED, while Ms. Lewis aided in the CPR with Ms. Seaton. The staff members continued to assist and monitor Mr. Heath for several minutes, coaxing him to breathe on his own just as emergency responders arrived. Interestingly, one of the first police officers on the scene was Radnor Police Officer Mark Bates, the same officer who had trained the district's physical education and health teachers in CPR, Stop the Bleed, and first aid in August. Due to the outstanding efforts of Mr. Buterball, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Rufinak, and Ms. Seaton, Mr. Heath survived the ordeal and is now on the road to recovery. The actions of these 4 Radnor Middle School personnel were extraordinary. Each individual immediately turned to his or her educational experience and training to respond to and successfully manage a singularly stressful and emotional event. Exemplary teamwork was also displayed at all levels, from health staff to teachers to administrators. I know that other administrators, Dr. Kent, who is here, who can't be here with us tonight, was also involved in helping, not only helping with the situation, but helping to, direct students and make sure that the whole area was secured, as well as other support staff in the building also joined in at that time to help out. All Radnor Township School District physical education and health teachers have been trained in CPR, first aid, and Stop the Bleed within the past year. Last year, for the first time, students in our 8th and 10th grades were provided CPR training through the American Heart Association. That is quite a unique piece that we do. That does not happen across the country or across our Commonwealth, that we have a whole classloads of students who are receiving that training in 8th and 10th grade on CPR training. This year, this training expanded to include first aid and stop the bleed. All our AED kits in the districts also contain stop the bleed kits. With the support of our entire school board, we would like to commend all of these individuals for the meritorious service of Mr. Budabal, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Rufinek, and Ms. Seaton, as well as the first responders and all other emergency personnel who played a role in assisting Mr. Heath. The entire administrative team and this board recognizes Radnor Middle School and the district as a whole for providing the proper training and establishing the proper procedures to enable and empower staff members to act with confidence and knowledge during the high-pressure situations. When I arrived at the middle school that afternoon after the events had taken place and the police officer was still there, it gives me chills to hear the police officer recount how everything fell into place so quickly. How the immediacy of Mr. Budabal, Ryan, seeing it happen, the immediacy of everybody arriving on the scene so quickly, for them to immediately be able to assess the situation, react, and then for our police department and ambulance to show up so quickly as well. It was truly wonderful to see the teamwork that everyone was able to work together and to use their skills to do that. And it's even more wonderful to hear that Mr. Heath is on the road to recovery as well, most importantly, throughout the whole situation. So before I shift to the Heath family, I would like to just call up those 4 individuals. So with Mr. Rufinek, Ms. Seaton, Mr. Budabal, and Ms. Lewis, please come to the front. And Mrs. Stern and I would like to present you with certificates. It's helpful when I grab the right folder with the certificates. Again, a round of applause. Stay there. You're not getting away yet. So I'd like you to stay up here, and also Miss Seaton is also known as CVS affectionately around the. It's actually her initials. So as a school nurse and CVS, I love it. But the Heath family had asked that if they could come tonight as well, and you can see on the screen we have a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Heath, and as I said to you, Mr. Heath is recovering and continues to recover, and we are so happy to hear that he is doing well and progressing, and we just thought it was so kind that the Heath family had asked to come tonight to say a few words, so I would just like to invite any members of the Heath family who would like to come up.
Thank you so much for inviting us, and we're just very, very grateful and very appreciative. So on behalf of my family, I wrote a little something I'd like to read. To the Radnor School District Board, Superintendent of Schools, and the middle school administration and teachers, on behalf of the Heath family, we'd like to express our sincere, heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to everyone that was involved in responding to and assisting the patriarch of our family, Ronald Heath, on the afternoon of Thursday, January 24, a little more than a month ago. Your quick action was instrumental in saving his life and preserving his quality of life going forward. As a family of faith, we thank God that the medical episode that caused him to lose consciousness and fall on the 24th occurred in front of Radnor Middle School as he was going inside to pick up his granddaughter. He could have fallen anywhere, but we are grateful that it occurred in front of the school and witnessed by Mr. Butterball, who acted quickly to engage the school personnel, especially the nurse, and others that were certified in CPR until paramedics could arrive. We know that your quick action and the school's training to handle such matters saved his life. Ronald Heath is a loving husband of more than 50 years, father to 3, grandfather to 6, and friend to many. He would have been sorely missed, but it was not his time. He spent 3 weeks in Paley Hospital and is now undergoing rehab at an inpatient facility. His progress for a full recovery is good. Saying thank you to all those that acted to keep our family intact at such a critical moment does not seem adequate enough for what was done. But we just hope that you know how appreciative we are and always will be. And on behalf of my mother, Betsy, my sister, Nicole, my children, my wife, we just really want to say how much we thank you.
Thank you.
I know. Well, I will let, again, thank you, Heath family. We're so happy to hear that he's progressing and doing well. Thank you for coming here tonight. You know, our teachers that are here, please, you're more than welcome to stay for the whole meeting. You know, please, you can all. I think Mr. Petiti wanted to grab everybody in the back there for a minute, but thank you all for being here, and we look forward to hearing that Mr. Heath is continuing on the road of recovery. We would love to see him. It'd be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And with that, that concludes my remarks. And I've noticed that this is the second board meeting in a row we've had tears during. Yeah.
Enough with the happy tears. All righty, and with that, I'm going to entertain our first round of public comment. Citizens are encouraged to address the board during public comment portions of the meeting on the agenda or other topics related to the Radnor Township School District. We ask that you print your name on the sign-in sheet at the back of the room. State your name clearly, your address, and your topic to be addressed. And we ask that you limit your comments to not more than 4 minutes per board policy 006. Should you be unable to attend our meeting tonight, please submit your comments by email to boardquestions@rtsd.org or in writing to Mr. Petiti, Radnor Township School District, 135 South Wayne Avenue, Wayne, PA 19087. And with that, I will entertain our first public comment. I was just about to say. Do we have none? Welcome, Mrs. Spurtle.
Good evening, Cindy Spurtle, 106 Valley Forge Terrace, Wayne. I have a few comments not related to tonight's agenda from past meetings that I'd like to make to start off with. I had a question or concern about the vote that was taken last business meeting concerning the past principal of the middle school, Esther Purnell, and why the vote seemed to be rushed and why the request that was made by a few board members to hold the vote because they had not had a chance to review all of the information is concerning since it was such an important vote, and your act has resulted in a federal civil lawsuit, which will be going forward. The other question I had is I was not able to attend the committee meetings last week, but watched them on YouTube, and thank you for that, which is new. But I had a question on the sleep study. I looked at the timeline again today, and there was to have been a report or some sort of a decision made this month, and now we're 2 days till the end of the month. And I noticed there was also to have been a meeting of the committee in February, and that didn't take place. If it did, it was not on the timeline. Said the next decision or a vote would be taken in the spring. Well, we have March, April, May, or June left in the school year. Which of those 4 months will the spring meeting decision be made? And for tonight's agenda, hopefully I can get this all in. I want to say how wonderful the beginning of this meeting was and how proud the school district must be of all the people who took part in saving Mr. Heath's life. That was a wonderful thing to see. I had a quick question. I noticed the business administrator's not here tonight, but on the synopsis of the revenue and expense, the financial summaries that are given as part of the financial report, which is part of the agenda 9.2, just had a quick question. It lists the percentage that of the real estate tax revenue that has been collected to date, and I was curious on that, and also the anticipated revenue by the end of the month. If would be interesting to me and maybe other members of the public how that 99% compares to past years. Has it that much been collected? Is that a lot more, a lot less? Can't be much less since it's 99% of the budget. And then the next question I had was on the board recognition of student clubs. There's a club on here. Recognition is new to me. It may be that I've missed that the club was approved, and this is a new concept that I read about in tonight's agenda. It had already been approved last year. It was being recognized for insurance purposes this year. I went online to see what Action Earth was about, and there was no summary. There is a summary of the other high school clubs, but so my curiosity is whether or not the board is familiar with this club before they go ahead to recognize it this year for the insurance. And on the Emlyn Tennell Park addendum, I had 2 comments on that that's coming up, and that's item number 12.1 on the agenda. And that is on the addendum to the lease agreement that is to be signed. The year 2018 is on there. That's just which I'm sure you all caught. The other question I had was item number 2, additions become property of district, the work that's being done. And there was a line in there that said that everything would turn over to the school district if the lease ended. And it said that unless the township deems that the structure is unusable. Well, I believe the property and everything on that property and structures are owned by the district. It just, to me, seemed odd that the township makes a decision on whether it's unusable. I know they are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep during the term of the lease. So that was one question I had. And I believe that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Spurtle. Do we have any other public comment? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Michelle Leonard, and I live at 852 Briarwood Road. I just wanted to say a quick thank you for all that the administration and other community members have been doing as part of the SLEEP committee. And I know Cindy just brought it up, but I know we are meeting this Thursday, and I know a lot of us are looking forward to hearing how the bus transportation study, what we found from it. And I just wanted to say thanks again, especially to Tony and Dan and John Hearn, who I know have been doing, and Ken, who have been doing a lot of work to get the information that parents and community members have been asking for, and just to make sure that we do a really thorough examination of what the options are and what would be best for our students and our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Leonard. Is there any other public comment? Okay, welcome, Dr. Winters.
Welcome, Roberta Winters, 326 Williams Road. I just wanted to reinforce Mr. Batchelor's noting of Read Across America, and I think it's never a day when students and adults shouldn't take out a book and read. So I hope that Read Across America will be a daily event and not just an annual one in our district. And also to reinforce the fact that Read Across America was started several decades ago and actually was an initiative of the National Education Association and was brought to the district by RTEA when I was president. So I'm very proud of the fact that it has continued, and I look forward to reading at Ithan this week, too. Further, I would like to reinforce as a member of the Garrett Hill community that we value Emlyn Tennell Field very much, and we want to make sure the right things are done to preserve that open space area in the most densely populated ward in the township. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winters. Is there any other public comment?
Ms. Stern?
Yes.
I have one from the board comments.
Oh, yes, if you could read that, please. Thank you, Mr. Petiti.
Dear Sir, Madam, This is from Mark F. D. Giovanni, Esquire. I have several questions about the above litigation filed against the school board and 2 school board officials in federal district court in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. 1, who is the insurance carrier for the school district? 2, what are the policy limits? 3, is it an occurrence policy or is it a claims made and/or claims made and reported policy? 4, is it an eroding limits policy whereby defense costs to erode policy limits? 5, does the insurance carrier have the right to control the litigation and assign defense counsel to defend the school district? 6, is there a policy sublimit which may apply to this litigation? 7, has the insurance carrier accepted coverage? 8, is the defense of the school district being provided pursuant to reservation of rights? 9, what is the name of the law firm assigned by the insurance carrier to defend the school district and individual defendants? 10, do Mr. Batchelor and Ms. McQuiggan qualify as additional insureds under the policy? 11, can all 3 defendants be represented by 1 attorney, or due to a conflict or potential conflict, will all 3 defendants require their own individual attorneys? 12, does the school district have an excess insurance policy, and if so, has the excess carrier been put on notice of this claim? 13, does the excess policy follow form to the primary policy? 14, is the excess policy an occurrence policy, or is it a claims made and/or claims made and reported policy? 15, does the school district's primary policy cover attorney's fees? 16, does the excess policy, if any, cover attorney's fees? 17, in the event of a verdict in excess of policy limits, how will the judgment be paid? Will the taxpayers then be stuck with a large bill? I look forward to your reply.
Thank you, Mr. Petiti. Are there any other comments? All righty. Well, seeing none, we're going to move right into our board committee reports. First up, we will have a report of the Curriculum Committee. Ms. Solomon.
Thank you. The Curriculum Committee met on February 19th. On tonight's agenda are several items that went through committee: the student clubs, the metastatic breast cancer research, and the Action Earth, the overnight trip to Friesland School in the UK, and the new instructional calendar for the 2019-20 school year. We also received a preview, really, of what the Wellness Committee, the Wellness Study, will conduct by Dr. Jim Kearney and his team. And we also had an update on the sleep and the school start time study from Dr. Anthony Rybarczyk. And due to the shortened time of our committee meeting, we had to defer the discussion of the technology study, which is sad because we've had that on our agenda for a couple months. So we have to defer it till March, but we will look forward to hearing the information about that. Our next meeting will be March 19th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have Mr. Miller give a combined Finance and Facilities Committee report because our meeting was a combined agenda. Mr. Miller?
So on February 19th, we had a combined Finance and Facilities Committee meeting where we discussed refunding a few bonds to save the district over $200,000, we hope, and approve donations, disposals, and sales of outdated equipment. We then moved on to the agreement for the Emmeline Tunnel Park Comfort Station that is on tonight's agenda. So the ball is squarely in the township's court now, and we are not delaying them in any way, as in fact we've been waiting for them to get back to us with what the building will look like. We also had Ms. Hoffner with the Schrader Group present the Bleacher Steering Committee update, and that led to a lengthy discussion on the bleachers, the whole athletic complex, the flow of traffic around the high school, and the master plan is progressing according to our plan, and a lot of us are excited to see the possibility of our facilities come up to date. We moved the capital plan update until next month due to time constraints, and that is what I have.
Thank you so much. And then Ms. Solomon, Ms. Goldman, if you could give our Policy Committee report.
The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, February 19th. We looked at Policy 239, foreign exchange students. That is another of the policies that has been impacted by aspects of the federal Every Student Succeeds Act. However, there are still additional questions to be addressed about that policy before it comes to the full board. On tonight's agenda, though, you will see 4 policies that have been brought forth for a first read: 222, 323, 423, and 523. These are all titled Use of Tobacco and Electronic Smoking Products. The first one's for students and the other 3 are for employees. The CDC has been issuing strong warnings over the past several months about the dramatic increase in the use of electronic smoking products among teens, and school districts have been urged to review their corresponding smoking policies. And in reviewing ours, the administration found that while our policy for the most part is current in addressing this activity, there were several tweaks needed, including revising the purpose on all 4 versions to correspond more precisely with the definition sections. In addition, revisions were made to ensure that the full title of the policy was consistently applied throughout the text of the 4 versions where appropriate. And while it does not need board approval, you will see that Policy 222 has an AR, and the administration will continue to modify this AR where needed while the policy goes through the adoption process to ensure that the AR is consistent with current policy formatting, district practice, and the law. Also at our meeting, administration recommended that the district homework policy and AR be reviewed by a reconstituted Radnor Homework Committee to make possible recommendations and changes to correspond with the ongoing Radnor Township School District projects concerning sleep and school start times, the technology integration study, and the wellness study. Policy Administrative Liaison Dr. Anthony Stevenson will spearhead this committee work, which should begin sometime next month. And the next Policy Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, March 19th at 6:30.
Thank you, Mrs. Goldman. And then we'll move right into the Government Relations and Communications Committee report.
The Government Relations and Communications Committee met on February 25th, just yesterday, due to snow. It was rescheduled a couple times. In our meeting, the administration gave a review of the February 2nd Delaware County Unites for Public Education event at the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. Among the many residents who came out on that very cold early Saturday morning were several Radnor High School students who graciously assisted with registration for the event and stayed for the advocacy workshop as part of the statewide PA Schools Work campaign to help all tax-paying stakeholders fight for the state legislature to dramatically increase its share of funding Delaware County Public Schools and all others across Pennsylvania. The next item we discussed is the proposed board resolution at the core of the campaign I just mentioned that is on our consent agenda tonight to approve. Several of our fellow Delaware County school districts have passed it, including Upper Darby and Wallingford-Swarthmore, just to name a few, and Garnet Valley has it on their board agenda for approval tonight. As you know, Pennsylvania's share, it puts towards funding its schools at 38%, ranking it 46th among 50 states in the U.S., leaving the vast majority of school funding to local taxpayers. The state share of the total cost of special education is even worse, as you will see in the resolution. We also discussed Governor Wolf's 2019-20 state budget proposal he made earlier this month. Dr. Babson gave us a report on his visit to Washington, D.C. at the end of January for the National School Boards Association's Advocacy Institute. And last, Michael confirmed the date for us for our 6th annual district GRCC legislative breakfast that will be held on Friday, April 5th at 7:30 in the morning at Radnor Elementary, and we hope all of our board members and administrators will attend. Currently scheduled to attend are both of our state representatives, our state senator, and we are waiting on confirmation from our federal representatives, our congresswoman, and our 2 U.S. senators. Last in new business, I mentioned that we should keep our eye on a lot of chatter around legislation sponsored in both the Pennsylvania House Bill 526 and in the Pennsylvania Senate, Senate Bill 34, that provides relief for school districts having to pay for students who are enrolled in out-of-district cyber charter education programs. This legislation is expected to have lots of traction because its primary sponsor is the House Education Chair. The next GRCC meeting will be on Tuesday, March 12th at 5 p.m.
I have a question. Could I get a hard copy of the resolution, please? Do we have such a thing here? Patty? Do you have copies of the resolution?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
I can give you mine, Lydia, if you
No,
want.
he's got them.
Thank you.
Thanks. There you go. Okay, with that, we're going to move into our consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussion on these items. With the consent of all board members, they are therefore grouped, and approval is given in one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any item, the board president will move it to an appropriate place on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
13.1.
13.1. Okay, so with that, may I have a motion to approve agenda items? Let me just go back here. 9.1.
So moved.
I finished through 13. Nope, through 12.4.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great. So the motion to approve passes unanimously. Ms. Bonneberger, you pulled 13.1.
Yes, I would, and as I told you all, I'm not going to be making a speech about it, anything that I haven't already said previously. I'll just simply say that obviously we can't discuss the charges publicly. I'm just deeply troubled by what I read as much as what I don't read, so I will not be voting to support that.
So do I have a motion to approve 13.1? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now that it's been motion and approved and a second, do we have any board comment? Is there any board comment? Okay. I'd like to ask for a show of hands. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The motion carries 8-1. All righty, and with that, we are going to move into...
Sorry, this is out of order. I didn't pull the resolution, so can I make a comment on it at this point?
Why don't you wait for board comment? I think that's at the end of the, in new business.
Okay.
All right,
It's
great.
not really new business, but it's fine.
Okay. So I'd like to start with board reports, reports from board liaisons, the Delaware County Community College. Ms. Solomon?
No report. Our next meeting will be April 3rd.
Delaware County Intermediate Unit, Ms. Booker?
Nothing related to revenue.
Okay. Federal Relations Network, Dr. Babson. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Booker has one thing.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. I do remember one thing. We actually had a brief discussion about other school districts and the sleep study and the idea of moving school time up. And I understand that there's some discussions happening within the superintendent's group. I know that there's a town or district-wide superintendent's group. Delaware County Intermediate Unit is impacted by it because students using the school program. There's not enough momentum within the entire county. The IU will not be changing its schedule in any way, and it could have some implications for our students if we change our time. I don't know where that is in the overall scope of the sleep study group, but I'd like to make sure that we include that in our evaluation.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Dr. Babson, tee you up for your once-a-year report. Here you go.
Right. My annual report.
Your annual report, great.
So every year, the National School Boards Association hosts, used to be called the Federal Relations Network Conference, but it's now called the Advocacy Institute Conference. And as discussed in the GRCC meeting, Amy and Chuck have been long-standing experts and advocates in this area. A torch has been passed, so to speak, I suppose. And I attended the conference. I learned a lot. I gave a report of action and fact-packed report at the GRCC meeting the other day, yesterday. And so if you want to look at that video, you can have a look at the report that I gave. But it was very informative, and it was a chance for Radnor to have a voice in the process of advocacy to our representatives on the Hill. I look forward to attending in the future and representing Radnor accordingly. Thanks.
Thank you. All righty, our Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council, Ms. Goldman.
Yes, the council met on February 13th. We talked about Governor Wolf's budget. We recapped the event I mentioned earlier in GRCC, the Delaware County Unites for Education. We talked about this resolution that we just passed as a school board. We talked about Senate Bill 34, the cyber charter school tuition bill that I just mentioned. There will be a legislative breakfast coming up that the Delaware County's School Board's Legislative Council meeting always holds, and I'd like to put that date out there for our board, Friday, May 17th. We generally have really good representation from Radnor, and I hope that that will continue. More details on the breakfast will be forthcoming. We talked about the PSBA School Board President Workshop, and we talked about the Advocacy Institute. Lots of this has been covered. And there was some mention about the mention of education briefly in the State of the Union address that was given in January. Just want to remind everybody, and maybe, Sarah, you're going to be talking about this, the PSBA sectional meetings coming up? Okay. Nope, I'm tossing it to our PSBA liaison on the board. And our next Legislative Council meeting will be on March 13th, 2019.
Thank you. And with that, we'll have our PSBA report from Ms. Dunn.
Yeah, there are a number of items. I just wanted to remind board members, I know we all get a lot of emails, so if there's some key dates you want to be aware of. The National School Board Association is actually meeting in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia this year. That's March 30th and April 1st. You want to get moving on your registration if you want to attend any of the sessions. Advocacy Day, where school board members across the state gather in Harrisburg to speak to our legislators, is April 29th. Again, registration is open. Hopefully we'll have a good contingent. I know a couple people have already registered. And then there are two meetings in the next couple weeks about safety and security in schools. One is, PSBA has broken them down by sections. We're in Section 8. So the first is this Thursday in Parkland. There's a meeting. There'll be someone from the Office of Attorney General there to talk about the Safe to Say program and school safety generally. And then on March 7th in Upper Dublin, there'll be a meeting. Again, someone from the AG's office will be there to be talking about the Safe to Say program. And there will also be a representative from the Department of Human Services to talk about suicide prevention efforts. If you guys didn't see the email, if you need more details, let me know. I'm happy to copy and paste from my liaison insider email so you can go. And I don't think registration is necessarily required, but it's probably not a bad idea. So.
Thank you. All right, Parks and Rec, is that going to be Mr. Madden or Dr. Babson?
We could say at the same time if we didn't know the same things, but we're just very pleased to move Emlyn Tunnel forward.
Super.
And we hope that the shade of green that we choose will be appropriate.
Wait, I thought it was red.
You two.
Oh, no.
Rabble-rousers. Enough.
In the words of Smokey Robinson, Chuck, I second that emotion.
Okay, and now we have the Radnor Educational Foundation, Radnor Alumni Council report. Mr. Miller?
See, I got it to stop buzzing. February's report from the Radnor Educational Foundation. REF held its annual benefit this past Saturday evening at Jaguar Range Rover Main Line in Wayne. That's the first time I've said that without tripping over it. We have had a great turnout and really appreciate everyone's support in making the evening a success. Special thanks go out to our benefit co-chairs, Serene Pena and Patty Balachandran. I apologize, I just butchered your name. And our tireless foundation director, Sheila Palmer, and the administrator, Teji Brennan, for all of their hard work. We also conducted the Winter Grants meeting on Monday, February 11, and the school board will be presented with a request to accept a number of new grants at its next business meeting. I have no report from the alumni.
We also have to mention Mr. Batchelor, our esteemed auctioneer at the gala.
Auctioneer extraordinaire.
I don't know if there's anything esteemed about it, but it was a wonderful event that the Ed Foundation has done. And again, we just thank the Ed Foundation and everyone involved. There's a lot of volunteers to put on that event and all the wonderful donations that went into that event. And I just want to thank everyone for making not only a fun night for our community, but also an opportunity to support our schools and all the hard work that was put into that. So thank you.
Sure. The Radnor High School Scholarship Fund report. Ms. Bonneberger?
Yes. First of all, I just want to remind everyone that the Radnor High School Scholarship Fund is an all-volunteer organization, and they really pulled together so beautifully to get so much done. I want to tell you that the scholarship deadline is Friday, March 20 at 2:30 p.m. sharp. There is no grace period. Students, don't procrastinate, please. Also, the 6th annual Radnor Kitchen Tour will be held on Sunday, May 5th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Radnor Page. Ms. Dunn?
We have no update at this point.
Okay. And the Radnor Committee for Special Education, Mr. Madden?
One of the things that special education is plagued with is the fact that we have a lot of mandates. And in the resolution that we just passed, it clearly states that over the past 8 years, our funding has increased $44,830, whereas our costs of our special education has increased $4,700,000. So what we're trying to do with this resolution is to get more money coming in from the state, which would off-balance the local monies that are going in. But it would also provide more of an equal footing across the entire Commonwealth for all of the children who do attend some schools that are more financially challenged than we are. So I would like to thank the board for passing this resolution as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, with that, we have new business. Ms. Solomon, you said you wanted to mention something.
Yeah, I really just want to echo what Chuck said. I want to commend us, I really do, for passing this resolution. This has been long in coming. There are school districts in our county that are seriously struggling right now, and it is a funding issue that can be corrected, should be corrected by the state, and it's high time that we look at the fairness of how resources are distributed in this state. I think we have one of the most unequal education systems in the country. And so, again, just thank you to everyone, Ms. Goldman and the committee, people, and our students. Excuse me, I understand our students were down there involved in this. This is just the start of starting to get this straightened out so that we can truly have excellent education in this state for every student. So again, thanks to the board for this.
So actually, I'm going to declare mea culpa. Since I had not received the document until before this meeting, I did a quick scan and voted for this item. And after I just got the last 15 minutes to read it, I do not agree with it, and I would like to make a motion to withdraw my support for number 12.4. I would request that we do a revote. I am not against funding from the state for schools, especially for schools that are struggling in their communities to fund appropriate levels of education. I'm all about that. I am completely against the state's fair funding formula for the 100 reasons that I stated in past meetings. I've not seen fundamental changes sufficiently to it that would say that Radnor is not going to be harmed by it. The statement that's here that we would allow all the levels, this is my fundamental concern, is that the school district urges General Assembly to take legislative action for public education by increasing educational funding, okay, at a minimum to the levels proposed in the governor's budget. I wouldn't necessarily even argue that, and to put the funding through the state's fair funding formula. That's my problem. Along with ensuring no districts receive less funding than they currently do in special education and CTE, and generating necessary revenues through sustainable, recurring funding sources. Radnor does not get enough special education CTE to really make up for what we stand to lose, and the impact to our community, in my opinion, is great. And I am fundamentally opposed. So I am requesting we reopen agenda item number 12.4 so I can appropriately declare my lack of voting.
All right, hang on. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Booker. So, Mr. Christofko, procedurally, I'd like you to walk us through that.
Sure. There would need to be a motion for reconsideration of 12.4. It would need to be seconded and voted on by a majority of the board, and then once that happens, then the actual 12.4 can be revoted on again.
So I think I did that, but I'll state it more clearly. I am making a motion that we reconsider the previous vote this evening on item number 12.4.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, we do. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comment?
Yes, I'd like to make some board comment. The basic education.
Can we comment on this before we vote whether to reconsider it?
This
Oh, yeah,
is,
no,
The vote
you're
right now is
this
just
is
whether we
just a,
reconsider.
this is just on the reconsideration.
Yeah, this
so
is
it's
just a
not
vote on the
substance,
reconsideration.
right.
Do we have any board comment on the reconsideration? Okay, no. So all those in favor of the reconsideration, please vote aye.
In favor of reopening a vote we've already closed and finished for this evening?
Correct.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all those opposed? 2. Okay, so the vote is 7-2, so we will be reopening 12.4. And
No.
now we need a motion to,
Yeah, somebody needs to move 12.4 and
Right.
second it, and then you can have debate about
Right, thank you.
12.4 itself, and then vote on it.
so thank you. So do I have a motion to approve item number 12.4?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
Do we have a second?
Second.
So check second. All right, so now with a motion and a second, we can open the floor for board comment. Yeah, we can open the board for new board comment on this.
Yeah, what I will say is, for the 6 of you who respected the fact that I am concerned about the fact I received this statement literally 10 minutes ago.
We got
5
an email
minutes
today
before.
with it.
Well, during our workday.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
not-
I don't have access to my personal email, let alone school district email, during a very busy workday.
And that's-
I got
I will
this
say that's
handed
the
to me.
second
Thank
time-
you, Lydia, for even asking for it,
Second
because
month
I
in a
have to
row.
admit, I didn't see this item the way that it was in there, and the team only came up with this wording in a language meeting last night. So I appreciate the 6 of you who respected the fact that I did not want my name voted on this and allowed me to pull it. So thank you for that.
Just a point of clarification. Because of the snow day, we rescheduled committee meetings, so we put on, no, just for our public who are listening, we rescheduled committee meetings, and we put a placeholder on the agenda of this, for this resolution as a placeholder, knowing that GRCC, because of the snow cancellation, didn't meet until last night.
Right.
So that was part of the change in the
And
timing.
there wasn't, I mean, I appreciate the workday, but didn't come out of the blue. There was a note in Friday's packet that this was on the agenda. There was a note about the snow day that this would be coming forth as of last night.
I
I just don't want people to be left with the
criticizing
impression.
the point that the team did not get their chance to get together until last night. I didn't see it. And so as a result of it, I voted for something I'm fundamentally against, and I appreciate being able to change that vote.
And I appreciate that. I just don't want the public left with the impression that we did not receive this until this evening. We were warned on Friday that this would be the case because of the snow day.
Well, but
You
even
didn't get it until
That's
this
not-
morning in an email, what I just heard.
that's not really true because it was in
It was
your
in the
committee
packets that we all
meeting
got on
packets
Friday.
But you
that
didn't do
came
language
out.
until last night. You
No, it
said
was in
you
the
did it-
The
packet.
language was in
On
the packet
Friday.
that you actually received last week for the committee meetings last week.
Yes.
May I see it? Because I don't think it's the same language that's here.
Yeah.
So
There
we received it in
is
a packet
this
over a
not
week ago.
exactly the same.
Now, now that we've clarified the timeline, is there a board comment with regard to the actual resolution? Because it was in a packet a week ago, and then we pointed out on Friday that because of the snow day, the committee wouldn't get a chance to vote on it until last night.
I believe that there's a chance that Mr. Batchelor will be able to explain maybe the language that's in there.
In what?
In
the fair funding
referendum.
formula?
Not the fair funding formula.
But that's what I'm concerned about.
The piece that will be going through the fair funding formula will just be the incremental increase piece, just like it normally is. It's not the entire funding piece.
May I address something? There's, published in January of 2018 is a whole memo from the House Appropriations Committee on the fair funding formula. And in there, very clearly, is a dedicated section called Hold Harmless. And the Basic Education Funding Commission agreed to 2 guiding principles when it came up with the fair funding formula. And first was that no new money should be subject to a hold harmless provision, but everything else is. So a hold harmless provision is very, very much, is steadfastly a part of the fair funding formula. The new money, which we're talking about $200 million, which is just a fraction of the overall money, billions, I think it's 3.1 billion that's put towards education. It's the $200 million that goes through the fair funding formula. And our district is getting money out of that. We get everything that we've ever gotten before, plus additional money out of this $200 million. And one of the factors in the fair funding formula that we benefit from is the fact that population growth or decline is accounted for. And because we happen to be one of the districts that's growing, that works in our favor. So of that fraction of new money that's applied on top of all the other money they keep up with that we've gotten in the past, we actually are getting more money than some other districts who are losing population. So that, I'm not saying this to change your vote, but I do want to clarify, because I think it's important that the only money going through the fair funding formula at this point is the incremental money that the legislature and the governor approve for in a given budget year to give as part of the education budget. It is a sliver, that's part of the problem, it's a sliver for those districts who really rely on the fair funding formula of the overall money that's going to education in any given year in the governor's budget. So we get everything we want plus more because our population is growing.
I appreciate that clarification, and I see that in the language here, and I say it's a foot in the door. So unless they've actually changed the fair funding formula significantly, I still cannot support it.
Okay, that's fine. Do we have any other new comments?
Well, I just want to say one more comment about, I think someone mentioned special education expenditures. And I think along with pushing the state to sponsor their fair amount for public education, I also think that we as a board should go after the federal government. And the special ed mandates are federal law. They've never been funded properly. A small percentage of those requirements have ever been funded by the federal government, and they really should pay for that because it's the right thing to do for special ed students. So this is a whole separate thing to me. This is the state paying for what they want us to do. But we should also, and I know some of you are representatives for, to the federal committees, we need to push the federal government to adequately fund their special ed mandates. And so to not pass this because somebody else isn't doing what they should do, that's, two wrongs do not make a right. That's my comment on that.
Okay, so do we have any other new comment with regard to the resolution itself?
Let me just add something very
Sure.
quickly, that I completely agree with what Lydia just said, and it falls into line with what we discussed at the conference. The NSBA conference was dedicated precisely to that specific issue, and we covered it a bit in GRCC as well. If I may just sidebar, there was a version of this resolution. There was a kind of template version that Michael provided, and so there were some small tweaks, but I think it's fair that there were some small changes, and I understand, Patty, where you're coming from on that issue.
Okay. All righty. So we have no more comment. I think this was a good conversation. Patty, I am glad that, and I was happy to support your request to pull it. I am glad that we got an opportunity to clarify the timeline. I mean, we have known about this for a number of weeks, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. That's why we have 9 individual votes, and we are getting really good at being, disagreeing without being disagreeable. And so with that, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of the resolution? Aye. Opposed? 1. Okay. And so the motion passes 8-1. Thank you all so much. And with that, do we have any other new business? Okay. Our board announcements. Our next round.
Excuse me, can I just say something?
Oh, sure.
I am concerned about this creeping practice of having very important documents sent to us during the workday, the day of a meeting. It feels very disrespectful. We are here as volunteers. We take a huge amount of our personal time, takes a hit on this for at least 4 years, and it can be very challenging to balance our lives. To put this responsibility at odds with our livelihoods is unreasonable and unfair. And, some of us may have different kinds of responsibilities during the day, different, the bottom line is it's just not right, and it's a bad practice, and I'm concerned that there's a slippery slope. I remember a time when this was a regular practice, and it was not okay, and it's not a good way to govern. It is not a good way to run efficient government. And I am hoping that unless there is a huge emergency, that we stop that practice. That's all.
Thank you so much.
I would agree wholeheartedly with you. I think the importance of having organized timelines, the importance of making sure that we have documents to the board and to the public in a timely manner is I think, absolutely critical and something that administratively we aim for and we shoot for. We just ask also the board and public to realize that let's make sure that we looking at each case and each situation, and that, in this particular situation, it was very clearly stated over a week ago. The resolution was shared with board members well over a week ago. The resolution was actually shared, I think, for the public to see. It was clearly stated that there was a placeholder for it, and that placeholder was being held for it just for the point because of a snow day. So there was
That's
unusual,
right. But
there was
would
unusual
you-
circumstances. So that's all good.
I
But
don't
think
want
the
to
point-
say, well, I'm not going to read what was sent to me during the day because I saw another version of it at another time. That's not reasonable, and that's not responsible. And to Patty's point, I mean, we want to come here and vote our conscience. So even though you told us it was going to happen, I still work. I can't stop and say, oh, everyone stop. I have to vote on this tonight. No, you can't do that. Unless there's a really urgent issue. I get that. These things happen. I'm just concerned it's becoming a practice, a habit, and to keep it in check in the future. That's all.
No, I think your points are good points. I just wanted to assure you that it's not a habit or a practice. Thank you.
Okay. And with that, our board
Yep.
announcements.
I just have one thing. We had a former superintendent here, John Flaminis, and his spiel was the room. The biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. And we see this, and I agree with you. And people are uncomfortable, and we will try as a board, as a superintendent, to make sure that this doesn't happen. Okay?
Okay. So our next round of board and committee meetings, the Government Relations Committee, the Facilities Committee, and the Finance Committee will all be meeting on March 12th in the Administration Building of the ground floor conference room beginning at 5 p.m. Our Curriculum Committee meeting and Policy Committee meetings will be meeting on March 19th beginning at 5 p.m. in the Administration Building in the ground floor conference room. And our next regular business meeting will be Tuesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. here in the Radnorshire room of the Radnor Township School District. And with that, I will entertain a second round of public comment. Citizens are encouraged to address the board at this time to address matters of concern, of action, or deliberation which are or may be before the board. Speakers are respectfully requested to avoid redundancy and to limit your comments to issues for which there was not previous opportunity to offer remarks. Please print your name and come forward and give us your name. Dr. Winters?
Good evening. I would just like to make a request for Mr. Miller and members of the Facilities Committee and also those who may be working on the high school athletic fields that they may wish to attend tomorrow evening's forum called Shedding Light, which has to do with outdoor lighting and its impact on health, the practical aspects, and ways we can mitigate it, because as I think you look at athletic fields and things like Tennell Field as well, we may want to be looking at light and how it might impact those who live in the immediate areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winters. Is there any other public comment?
It's 7:30 tomorrow night right here in this space.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? Second. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes 9-0. Our meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much.